Hi class, welcome to week 14. We will be discussing safety and security this week. Easily stated, guests care about security. If they're paying for a hotel room, it is appropriate to expect that the hotel will be able to take measures to keep a guest secure while in their room or moving about the hotel. Appropriate security means restricting access to non-guests. Of course, we understand that certain non-guests may need to visit the hotel for a variety of reasons, to include delivery vendors, non-guests attending a function at a hotel but not staying the night, non-guests visiting the hotel restaurant or bar for a meal or drink, and non-guests visiting an out-of-town friend or family member. The purpose of security is to ensure that those within the hotel are safe and that those who do not belong are unable to gain access. There are a lot of security programs and protocols a hotel could implement to ensure the safety of their guests. Some measures may apply to the entire hotel, and there are others that apply specifically to the housekeeping department. While technology has given us major advancements in protecting our guests and employees, there is still a human factor and human responsibility to ensure that security protocols are followed. To reduce potential security issues, these operational features could be considered. The use of electronic locks where only those with a keycard could gain entry, providing guests with traveler safety tips upon arrival via email, text, or paper pamphlet, ensuring all guest rooms have working phones that can dial out to 911, installing guest room doors that self-close and lock automatically. Doors should be equipped with a working deadbolt, peepholes, and security bars. Installing deadbolts on interior doors for rooms that connect. Ensuring that all windows lock and cannot be opened wide enough for a person to pass through. Ensuring that all patio or balcony doors lock and are installed with a hinged bar or additional lock. Security cameras in all hallways, public spaces, entrances, exits, and stairways, including any employee spaces. Security cameras should be monitored and always recording. Providing in-room safes for guests to use and ensuring that safes are bolted to the floor or a non-movable area. Just as a hotel GM needs to be concerned with the safety of paying guests, the same is true for employees. An employee can be just at risk of becoming a victim of a crime as a guest can. In housekeeping, there are many steps we can take to ensure we are making the best decisions while staying safe. Never open a room for a guest, no matter how friendly or persuasive they can be or seem. Instead, follow your hotel's protocol. In most hotels, the guests will need to return to the front desk to verify their identity and retrieve a new key. If the guest doesn't have their ID with them, they may be asked to answer specific information on their reservation, or they may be escorted to their room to produce their ID. I was staying at a beautiful golf resort in March, and to be completely honest with you, my dress ripped, and I needed to return to my room to change, and neither one of my keys would work. The light on the door would turn green, but the handle would not release. I went to the elevator vestibule, and there wasn't a hall phone for me to use to call down to the front desk, which is really strange. I did not want to walk down to the lobby due to the state of my dress, so I was hoping someone would help me gain entrance to my room. I had my driver's license with me. I saw an employee down the hall, and I asked him if he could assist me. I assumed he would radio to the front desk to verify that it was my room and then let me in. I had even taken my ID and offered it to him. He told me that wasn't necessary. He opened my door with his master key and told me to have a nice night. This was absolutely the wrong way to handle the situation. I know you all haven't met me yet, but I'm only 5'2" and very non-threatening looking. I'm sure I don't appear to be someone who would break into a room, but how would this gentleman know? On top of this, there was something wrong with my door lock. My next set of keys wouldn't open it. The employee and the front desk did not offer to have maintenance look at my door. A few years ago, I was at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas with my friends. One of my friends had forgotten her room key, and so she used the phone by the elevator to see if someone would let her in. She didn't have her ID, and the room was not in her name, and I was not in the room to verify that it was in my name. Two security guards showed up and refused to let her into our room. My friend was irritated, and she had to wait for me to arrive to let her into the room. Even still, security then requested to see my ID so they could verify the room was in fact mine. While this was annoying to us, the security guards absolutely followed their protocol and made sure that all of us were safe. We learned earlier in this course that housekeepers should not prop their doors open to allow them to walk in and out. They especially should not flip the lock so that the door doesn't close all the way. The best practice is to position the housekeeping cart directly in front of the door with the supply access side facing the guest room. This will allow the housekeeper to access their supplies. It will block the entranceway, and if someone does try to move the cart, the housekeeper will be able to hear them and take appropriate action. Storage closets and even laundry chutes should always be closed and locked. The housekeeper should be stocking their carts one time a day, so there shouldn't be much need to go back and forth to storage. They can use their master keys to access the closet when necessary. In some hotels, housekeeping will end their day around 4 or 5 p.m. There may or may not be an evening houseperson. Regardless, if going to a guest room alone to deliver an item, always bring a radio and always inform the front desk of where you're going. At the end of the night, many of the hotel's entrances will lock, and only those with a key card will be able to enter. An employee should never open or hold a door open for someone, even if they're sure they're a guest. The guest will need to follow the hotel's protocol for verifying their status and then gaining access to the hotel. Trust your instinct. When I was in college, I worked at a Hilton hotel in downtown Providence. I worked night audit, which meant I had to do everything. If a guest asked for towels at 2 a.m., I was the one delivering them. We had one security guard, but his main responsibility was falling asleep in the lobby. A guest requested fresh towels. I went up to his room and knocked on his door, and I wish I were joking when I tell you that he opened his door completely naked. I was mortified. I tried to hand him his towels, and he asked me to place them in the bathroom for him. Obviously, I was not going to enter a guest room of a naked person, nor would I ever enter a guest room in the middle of the night and without backup. I set his towels on the floor and practically ran away to the stairs. From that point on, I never entered another guest room alone. Even when a guest had a complaint and needed to have their sheets changed or something that required me being in the room, I would either ask the guest to step out or bring another manager or employee with me. If you see something, say something. Do not be scared or ashamed to speak up. The detection and prevention of human trafficking in the hotel industry is a huge focus for hotel owners and general managers. I don't work on property, but every year I must take required human trafficking training. That's how important it is. For those of you planning to work in the hotel industry, you will need to be sure to have the same type of training. If you sense that a situation is off or that someone may be in danger, it's appropriate to talk to your general manager and to call the authorities. Don't become a detective and try to figure it out on your own. Notify the appropriate people and take action. If what you suspected is unfounded, that's great and it's okay. The important thing is that you did your part. Last story. At that same Hilton, a gentleman walked into the hotel without a reservation, and he had a young child with him. I later found out she was 10. The way they interacted together seemed off, and it didn't sit right with me. She wasn't fighting him or crying, but he was rushing through the check-in, refused to leave a credit card, and didn't want to show me his ID. He also had a car, and our hotel only allowed valet parking. He refused to let valet services park his car and take his keys. Instead, he parked in an hourly pay lot across the street. It just didn't sit right with me, and I felt uneasy knowing that his daughter would be in the room alone with him. I called the non-emergency police department, and they showed up quickly. The guest had already gone to his room. They ran his license plate, and it turned out he was wanted for custodial kidnapping. He had kidnapped his own daughter from his ex-wife a few days earlier. He was taken into custody, and his daughter was unharmed. I very well could have been wrong, but I felt deeply that there was something going on that was unsafe, and I acted on my instinct. Know that you aren't bothering the police department if you call in a situation. They would rather investigate and find nothing than to have a situation ignored and become worse. So to recap, security measures and housekeeping. Never open a guest room for a guest. Avoid propping guest room doors open when cleaning. Always keep storage closets closed and locked. Always carry a radio when delivering items to a guest room alone after hours. Do not open locked exterior doors for anyone, even if you think they're a guest. Trust your instinct. If you see something, do something. And lastly, for those of you who may work at the front desk, never ever announce a guest's room number out loud. Always write it down for them. Key control is a managerial responsibility. For the purposes of this lesson, we will discuss key control as it relates to electronic locks. Most hotels are equipped with electronic locking systems for all access points, including guest rooms. It is important that management establish a process for issuing keys to employees. Keys should never be permitted to be brought home. In my last hotel, we had no process whatsoever. We had a lockbox which was left open in our front office 24/7. It contained a number of master keys, I don't know how many, and each morning the housekeepers, house person, and maintenance person would walk into the office and grab a key. We had a clipboard which they were supposed to sign in and out, but they never did. Our maintenance manager refused to leave his key in the box overnight and would take it home each day. If a key were to expire or deactivate, we would simply have the front desk rekey it. The front desk had access to the key maker and could make any key needed. The password to make master keys was 1111. How is that for safety? On top of that, we would issue keys to vendors. For example, we had a service come to our property to repair the printer in our guest business center. The front desk gave him a key that would give them access to the business center and to any entrances throughout the building. There was no process for the vendor to sign in or out, no identification asked for, and no communication to him to return the key when done. And remember, this was another Hilton hotel. While employees have master keys in their possession, they should not leave them in their housekeeping cart or in their personal belongings, such as a purse or a backpack. They should be kept on their person for the entire shift until it can be returned. Whether using a bracelet or retractable keychain, management needs to make sure employees are equipped to keep their key on their person and easily accessible to open doors. My last piece. One of our laundry attendants was known for frequent call-offs. We were unable to fire her because she had a multitude of medical excuses from various doctors. She had no reason to have a master key as she was only in the laundry room, which was unlocked. And she did not need to store items in different areas throughout the hotel. She remained in the laundry room for most of her shift. One morning, I came in at 5 a.m. and noticed her car parked on the side of the building. I thought this was strange. She wasn't scheduled to work, so I walked over to her car only to find it filled to the brim with sheets, towels, pillowcases, comforters, mattress toppers, cleaning supplies, and my very own handheld vacuum. I took photos and called the police and the GM. The laundry attendant gained access to the side entrance of the hotel because we had no key control process in place. She took a key from the office and walked away with it. We wouldn't have known it was missing since we didn't do key counts. It turns out this wasn't the first time she had done this, and it explained why my inventory counts were always so low, even after I bought new linens and terry each month. However, we had a camera installed on the side entrance within the last month, which was used to finally let her go. She had no idea there was a camera there, even though it was within her eyesight. My point is, we want to believe the best in people, and we hope that we hire the best employees who are honest and have integrity. Unfortunately, that isn't always the case, so it's important that security measures such as a key control process are implemented, monitored, and followed through. Your book discusses the 5 R's of key control. They are rationale, records, retrieval, rotation, and replacement. Rationale is used to develop the keying schedule and to identify who will have what level of access. Records requires keeping information about the status of a guest room, the name of the room's occupants, and anyone with key access. It also means keeping a record of keys that employees have been issued. Retrieval means receiving keys back from guests after their departure, communicating to guests how they should return their key, whether dropping it off at the front desk, leaving it in the room, or using a drop box. Policies in place that do not allow employees to bring keys home, key expiration dates, and sign-in and sign-out procedures are also part of retrieval. Rotation would require moving locks from room to maintain security, preventative security action. Lock rotation can occur on a regular basis or when a certain number of master keys have not been returned or lost. And lastly, replacement. If security has been compromised or if there is a potential for security to be compromised, locks should be changed. This applies to any safe system the hotel may have, food and beverage liquor storage, etc. Whole system lock replacement is also recommended when a hotel is sold to a new owner. There are a lot of different key makers available for a hotel to choose. The one on the left side of your screen is standard. There are also key makers that interface with a hotel's PMS and can make keys as you check a guest in. This is a huge time saver and sets the key requirements exactly as the reservation states. The key maker pictured here does require a passcode to be entered when making a key. and it will time out after inactivity. As a best practice, the person making a key should always close out when finished. The system is very manual. The person making the key will need to enter the room number, know how many nights the guest is staying, the exact time at which the key should expire, and how many keys they wish to create for that room. Keys will typically expire at checkout time on the guest's day of departure. If the guest has a late checkout or is extending their stay, they will need to have a new key made. A key can be made to be valid for a few hours or for hundreds of days at a time. We made our master keys for 999 days, which was the max, and clearly was not the best idea. These key makers can be set so that each person who has access to the key maker has their own passcode and only allows them to make keys for certain things. So if I work at the front desk, I have my own passcode, and we know that my passcode is attached to Jacqueline. And I can only make keys for guest rooms, maybe the fitness center or the pool or the business center. My key access would not be allowed to make master keys. That would be something that the general manager has or the front office manager, not necessarily the front desk agent. And at my hotel, unfortunately, we didn't do that on our key maker. We just had one passcode, and it just gave anybody with that passcode the ability to make any key that they wanted. So these systems are designed with security in mind, as long as they are used appropriately, which is where that human responsibility comes in, to making sure that while we're using our technology, we're using it correctly, but we're still keeping everybody safe. What's also new are the Master Key bracelets. These are really cool and can be worn around your wrist for easy access to guest rooms. If you're carrying towels or supplies into a room, you won't have to put down your items to fish out your key. Instead, you just hold your wrist up to the lock for it to open. Another benefit of electronic locks is the ability to interrogate or read the lock or perform a lock audit. This is typically a maintenance responsibility. They'll hook the black device to the physical lock, and a report will generate that details which key was used to enter the room, how many times, the date, and when the lock was opened to let somebody out. This is helpful when a guest reports a room theft. The lock can be read, and it can be determined when it was opened and by whom. Assuming the hotel you work in has proper key control processes in place, it's also helpful when a guest departs their room before their actual checkout date, but doesn't tell the front desk they left. The room remains empty, but it's checked into the system. It isn't checked out until after their scheduled departure day, because that's when housekeeping entered the room to clean it as a checkout. This is a continuous issue now that rooms are being cleaned less frequently due to COVID-19. The guest is then charged for their full length of stay. They see this on their credit card, they're upset, and they call the hotel. Maintenance can then run a lock audit and determine the last time the guests used their key. Then the front office manager or the GM can determine if they should refund the guest the nights they didn't stay, depending on the hotel's policy. Okay, last story. When I worked at a hotel in Newport, Rhode Island, it was a beautiful resort on the water, and it had a lot of money put into it. I mean, it had all the technology you could imagine was put into this beautiful hotel. And it was a historic hotel, but it was modern and updated. We had pretty large safes in the room, and they locked by the guests. The guests could set their passcode, and they were the only ones that, once it was set, it was just them that could get in. If they forgot their passcode, then we had a master key that could override it, and there were only two master keys. So one was held by engineering and one was held by our general manager. And so a guest and his family checked into a room, and they were there probably an hour. It was about an hour after they had checked in. They came down to the front desk just so upset, claiming that they had put thousands of dollars, like $5,000 in cash, into the safe and all of this jewelry, and they had left the room and come back, and it was all gone. The safe was open and everything was removed out of the safe. And we just honestly thought that was pretty impossible. He had only been checked in for an hour. Nobody saw him come downstairs, and the way that the hotel was designed, like you had to walk past the front desk to leave. So honestly, we just kind of thought this is a crazy person. So maintenance came and they ran a lock audit on the door. And this hotel, we followed very rigorous security protocols. And we had a system where the key would be made through the PMS. So we didn't have to manually make the keys. It would come out when the reservation was made. And so it matched exactly the check-in, check-out, and then the expiration time. Upon reading the lockout, the only person who had entered that room was the guest, and at the check-in time, around the time he had checked in based on what our system said, and nobody had left the room until he came down to the front desk to claim that his items were stolen. So that is the importance of a key audit and why electronic locks are really important. He, said we were lying and that we had got into his room and taken all of his stuff, and there just wasn't any proof. On top of that, we had security cameras in the hallways, and no one went into his room, and he didn't leave until he came down to accuse the hotel of stealing. He did call the police, and the police, took all the information from the hotel, and nothing ever was filed. He stayed his stay and left. But it just shows you that putting systems in place really help keep the hotel safe from liability. And when it's done properly, can keep the guests safe too. As always, I hope you all have a great week. For this week's assignment, you will be participating in a discussion post. There are a couple of articles posted about Erin Andrews. For those of you who aren't familiar with her, she is a well-known news reporter for sports. And at the time, she had worked for ESPN as a sportscaster and was unfortunately the victim of stalking at a Marriott hotel. And her case was all throughout the media, so was her lawsuit, and she ended up suing the owner of the hotel, Westin Hotel Partners, and was awarded $55 million. Half of that, though, was to be paid by the person who stalked her, which he'll never be able to pay back. He doesn't have that kind of money. However, the owners of the Marriott Hotel did settle with Miss Andrews, and ultimately, they were found responsible for part of the security breach. So you'll be reading that article. There's a discussion post where you will answer a question about the Erin Andrews case, and then there is a research component where you will find an article that relates to a security breach at a hotel. It can be in the United States or anywhere in the country, it doesn't matter. You'll summarize that article, you'll answer some questions, and then you'll respond to 2 classmates. Make sure you're paying attention to the criteria for the classmate responses, because that is going to be really important towards your grade. I know how nice we all are, and we love to tell our classmates, great job on your post, or I agree. That's not going to cut it. You need to make sure you answer the criteria for the responses. That's part of your grade. If you have questions, please send me an email. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great week. We're almost to the end of the semester. It's almost summer break. So a couple more weeks and we'll be done. Have a great week.